Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you a project using a bunch of different canes. Now I've chosen some canes and all of these have tutorials for them, so I will leave the links in the description below, but keep in mind you can use any canes you want. So these are my poppy. This is my poppy cane, which is a free YouTube tutorial that's been reduced into different sizes. Here is my red rose cane, another free YouTube tutorial. Then I am going to be using my black rose cane, again free YouTube tutorial. Got that reduced into a bunch of different sizes. It's important to have it in different sizes. Then I have my frangipani cane, and this is a Etsy tutorial, and I'll provide a link to that as well. Keep in mind they are 50% off at the moment. Here is another one from a Etsy tutorial. I can't remember what it was called. I think it's rainforest necklace. Again, link to it in the description below. 50% off. Okay, so those are the coloured canes. And now keep in mind that's the set that I have chosen to use. You can use any you want, any you've accumulated where the colours match together. Now here I have my translucent bubble cane, my translucent leaf canes. These are also free YouTube tutorials. And I also have a translucent flower cane, and this one is a Etsy tutorial, and I'll provide a link to that. Okay, so those are the canes I've chosen. Again, keep in mind you can choose any you want. So now some of these are a little bit old. So these ones I did a little under a year ago, I think. So they should have a little bit of give to them still, since I have stored them in a nice cold, dark place away from the sun. So you can see they do have some give to them. I don't want to reduce them. This is why I reduce them before I pack them away and don't use them again. All I want to do is I want to gently roll it, squish back down, roll, squish, and this will just warm up the cane a little bit. And for all of the canes that I want to use, the specific sizes I want to use, if they are old, I will do this. And even ones that you've made recently, you should probably do this just to kind of recondition that clay and get it ready to work with again. So I'm just going to do that with all of the others. Now, that's how you would do a round one. If you have one such as this leaf over here that is a little bit old, all you can do is you can gently press from one side, flip, press on another side, and this is just going to gently warm it up. Another thing you can do is you could set your oven temperature to the lowest temperature you can get it to, like really low, just a nice pleasant warm temperature, and you could set your canes in there for maybe about 5 minutes, and that will just get some warmth into them and it will make them a bit softer. But remember, if you can't stick your hand in there and it's not comfortable, then it's too hot for your clay. It should be a nice warm comfortable temperature. So there we go, that one's starting to move just by doing this a little bit. So I can reshape it, I can get out any grooves that might have been caused by me storing it, and it's ready to use. So I'll just repeat that with all of the other canes and then we can move on to our project. Okay, so once you have them all conditioned, what you're going to need to do is take a piece of white clay, and I'm using Primo today, and you want to run that out to about 0.5 millimeter thick. So you want it nice and thin. And now you're going, so I've got 3 groups of canes. So with your canes, you're going to want to have a few groups. So I've got the red ones over here. I've got the yellows with these leaves. And I might actually use the leaves with the red as well. And then I also have these, but this is in a different group, and I'm not going to be using the leaves with those. And then the translucent canes are just going to be used throughout. So for each of these groups you're going to want a sheet of polymer clay, because we're going to be making a bracelet out of tube beads, and so we're going to be wanting to make different tube beads. So here's one of the sheets, so let me pop that to the side, and we're going to start slicing up our canes. So let's start with these ones. So you're going to want a nice thin tissue blade, which is what I have here, so that it slices through nice and clean. Now, when you are cutting your canes, you want to cut towards yourself like this. I cut like this sometimes on the video so that you can see what I am doing, but when you are doing it at home, you want to cut it this way so that you can see what you are doing. So you want to hold the blade nice and rigid, because this is a flexible blade. It's a very thin, flexible blade, and you just want to cut out your cane slices. And now if they're not completely even, like you can see here, don't worry about that. I'm going to show you a trick later on to help you get your slices nice and even. And you're going to cut out a bunch of slices from each of your canes in whatever group you have, and then after that I'll begin laying them onto my veneer. And generally what I'll do is I'll cut out a bunch of slices, maybe even put them on a piece of plain paper so they're out of my way, and then once I've got all of that out the way, then I will start placing them on the veneer. Okay, so I've finished slicing up my canes, so now we're going to apply them to our veneer. So I want to start with my translucent bubble canes, because I want them to be the backing. So I'll just kind of lay them on top, and I don't want to cover the entire area with them. I just want one side with them. Like so. Okay, and now some of these are a little thick, so the trick that I wanted to show you is that now that you've got them stuck down onto a surface, you're very gently going to shave, like so. And those shavings I'm actually just going to place elsewhere, because there's no need to waste. So you can just place them over each other like that, so you have a more neat version over here. And then another version over here where it just kind of overlaps onto each other. And I'll continue shaving here until I find that they're thin enough, because I don't want a big thick slab of clay. And if you break through, that's fine as well, because we're going to be layering more canes on top. Okay, there we go. As I've also gone and used some of the slices to just break up the square shape of the bubble cane. So now we've done that, I'm going to bring over some of my larger poppy pieces, poppy flowers, and I'm just going to pop those on randomly where I want. And you can place it on top of the translucent cane, you can place it on the plain white, that's fine. You can swap over to some other canes as you go, and just layer it as you like. And I'll just continue placing down cane slices until I am happy with the amount that I have on. Okay, and here is how it looks. So now we are going to take a piece of plain printing paper, lay it over the top, and I just like to gently rub it to start with, just to get the paper stuck down. And then I'm actually going to just use the palm of my hand to start with, to start burnishing this, just to get it started. Then you can bring over an acrylic roller, and the important thing is to not roll. You want to take it and you want to rub it across the surface, like so. So you burnish it. And you will continue doing this until you have a nice flat surface. You should not be able to feel the cane slices after you've finished this. So just continue doing this until it is nice, flat and seamless. Okay, And then we'll just peel this off. And you can see that colour transfer from the burnishing onto the paper. And then just run your hand over the surface. And if you feel bumps, like I can feel over here we still have some bumps, over here is fairly soft. If you feel bumps still, take your paper and we're going to turn it the opposite way around again. And this time what I like to do is, generally you can feel it through the paper. I'll use my finger to burnish this time around so that I don't have to burnish the entire thing, and I can just focus on those spots that I can feel the bumps. And then by the time we've done here, it should be perfectly smooth and ready to work with. Okay, and here we are. And I'm just going to actually lift that with my blade. So there's our first veneer, and now I'm going to just pop that to the side, and I'm going to make 2 more veneers, and then when they're done I will show you, I'll tell you which canes I used, and then we can move on to creating our 2 beads. Okay, so I've finished all of our veneers, so I'll bring them over. So here's the one where I used our black rose cane. I also put the frangipani cane with it, and all of the translucent canes, the leaf, flower and bubble cane. Then the other one that we have, just bring that over quickly, is this one with the frangipani cane, and I paired that one up with the leaf cane and all of the translucent canes, the leaf translucent cane, the flower translucent cane and the bubble translucent cane. And then we have the one over here that we did a little while ago as well. So I'm going to put these to the side and I will make stuff like that in a little while. But for now we are going to make our 2 beads using this. Okay, so first I want to just lay that down flat, and I want to trim it, so I'm actually going to bring over, I'm not sure if this is long enough, no. So I'm just going to use a ruler. I want to get a nice clean edge on it. Okay, and I'm not going to trim the top bit over here, don't have to worry about that. And I use the ruler because this is longer than the width of my blade. If I can use my blade, I prefer to use my blade. There we go. Now I'm going to be using a skewer for the next part. Actually going to just bring over this paper to work on because it will make it easier. There we go. We'll position this like so. Actually, this tube bead skewer might be too narrow, so I'm going to use this instead. Now this I cannot bake because it is made out of plastic, but I am going to use it to wrap around. So to prevent the clay from sticking, I'm going to bring over a brush that's been coated in some cornstarch. Just making sure to be careful not to get too much on the front. You don't need a lot. So just brush that on, put that to the side, and I'm going to blow it off quickly. Okay. And that should help prevent my clay from sticking to this, so I will be able to get it out. It does make it a bit more fiddly though, so I'll curl around the first end, and then I'll bring these over. Okay, I'm just going to make a mark so I know roughly where to cut. put that to the side. And now that was a rough cut. And this is very fiddly because of the cornstarch. So I'll just continue, and once I get to a place where I've got it kind of under control, I'll come back. Okay, so I had to trim away more clay, but now I should have it more under control since I can pinch these edges together. Like so. So the trick is just to make sure that you have just the right amount of clay so that the two ends meet up, because this end over here and this end over here are not dusted with cornstarch, so if you pinch them together they will stick. And you will just do that up the entire length, like so. And then they should stay put while you're working with it. Okay, and then once this is baked, that's when I will trim it into the sections that I want. Okay, so I've got that pinched together. Now I'm gently going to just press with my finger along that length, because I want to smooth that out so that there's no seam. And then I will roll, and that will also help loosen it if it is stuck to this. You can see I'm just gently rolling along the length, and this sits nice and loose on there, which is what you want. Okay. And then I'll just actually run my finger along the seam to smooth it out. It's still going to be visible because, well, the canes don't meet up perfectly, but that's fine. And then I'm just going to make sure that that's nice and smooth. Then I'll give it one last roll, give it a quick stretch to make sure that it is nice and even, and then we're just gently going to work that out. And there we have our tube. And now you could actually move that around if you wanted to, and I might do that later on. But we're just going to put that to the side, pop it onto a piece of paper, plain printing paper, and I'm going to make one of each for the other two veneers that we have. Okay, and so here are our pieces. So I'm just going to pop these to the side for a moment, and I'm going to bring over what I'm going to bake them on. And this is a memory wire coil, which I've gently stretched so that it's a bit wider and doesn't it's not sitting close together in a coil, and that's what I want to bake my piece on. So I'm going to take this, and now if we put it on the coil, the weight of it will make it sink down, and so I don't want this to be able to stick to each other while it's baking. So just take some cornstarch and just give it a very quick gentle dust. This will mean that it just shouldn't stick to itself. Then I'm going to just gently thread it on. This is a little tricky. Because it is still raw. So don't force it on, it should curl on. If you force it, it will make that wire poke through. Just gently guiding it on. And everything I'm doing here, I will repeat for the other pieces, and then I'll bake it for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature. Okay, we're almost on. See the wire there. just gets a little tricky, but you should be able to get it on. There we go. Okay, and now that will have a nice curve to it while it bakes. Okay, so here are the bracelets now that they are finished, and I just wet this in some water and just gently rubbed it a bit, and that will have gotten rid of most of the cornstarch. If you really want to, you can give it a clean, and I'll show you how to do that. Grab some alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and a wet one. 99% is generally the best, and just give your piece of spray. And then just give it a good rub down, and that should get rid of any excess cornstarch, and just in general clear up any oils as well. So it's just a good thing to do after you've baked them. Okay, so now we're going to examine them, and generally these end pieces don't end up looking so great. They end up a little bit warped, as you can see, and they don't generally have the correct curvature. Just going to see if I can slice through that, and actually I should probably warm it up before I slice through. I'll do that on the other side. What you can do is you can put it in the oven, or what I like to do is I just like to grab a heat gun and then heat it up. And you really don't need a lot, it just needs to be nice and warm to the touch. Now it's actually a little too warm. There we go. And now we have nice clean sides. And I'll do that with the other two. Okay, and for the next step we're going to cover them in liquid clay. So I'll do this one. And I'm just going to bring over my memory wire again. And this time we can be a little bit more rough with it because it's been baked. It's also been baked into the curvature of the memory wire. I'm just going to bend this, and these I use for my clay making, so I don't worry about bending it out of shape. And now this is going to be because we're going to be putting some liquid clay on, and I need this out of the way of my hands when I'm using the heat gun. Okay, so I'm just going to gently make a bend there. You can use pliers, but that will just mean that it won't slide off quite as easily. Okay, now we're going to coat it in liquid clay, and you're going to be using Kato Clear liquid clay. It's the best brand as far as I have experienced. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover that on one side and then run a nice thin line down the other side. I'm just going to hold it. I'm just going to use my fingers to cover this to start with. And if you see any imperfections, you can always just quickly sand them and then cover it in liquid clay. And I tend to just use my fingers to do this, and then I'll go back and have a look, see if I missed any areas. It's just the quickest way to cover such a large object in the liquid clay. It also gives a fairly even coat. Then I'll just go through and have a look, see if I missed some areas. If I did, I'll just grab the bottle and apply some more liquid clay. Like so. And then I'll just continue until I'm happy with it, which I'm almost happy with it. Can't really switch off the camera right at this moment because my hands are a bit on the mucky side. So just bear with me for a moment. Go through, make sure that it's even, and then just reflect it around in the light. If you can see imperfections in the surface, that means that you have not got a good enough coat of liquid clay. So just take the bottle, gently squeeze on a bit more, brush it over the surface, and then just rotate again. And after you stop seeing imperfections, like there, then we can set it with the heat gun, which I'm going to do in just a moment. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly wipe my hands off with a wet wipe, which I have lying off to the side. Now the trick is to get a nice even coat of liquid clay, but to not make it too thick. You should very easily be able to see the pattern underneath the liquid clay. If you can't see the pattern very well, you probably have a too thick a coat of liquid clay. Okay, so now hold this off to the side. You don't want your hands anywhere near in the way because the heat gun gets hot. You want it on its hottest setting, but lowest wind speed. And I'm using an Ozito heat gun. And let's start. Oh, wait. Little hair there. Sorry, saw hair. Okay, now we can stop. I just want to put this to the side for a moment, and I want to just reposition. So I'm going to hold it in my opposite hand, and I'm going to just cure the other side a bit more. Okay, and we're almost done. So I'll just make one last check. Just a bit more on this side. The pattern should be completely clear. Okay. Switch that off. Leave it to the side, and now very carefully, I might even just bring over my blade to help me balance this. Just look around, make sure that your pattern's completely clear. You shouldn't have any cloudy spots. If you have cloudy spots, that means that the liquid clay was not cured completely in that spot. So I've got one little spot there. Now it should have cooled off enough for me to handle it a bit. But I don't see any other spots. So I'm just going to quickly cure that. Then I'm going to repeat the process with the other ones, and when we're done, I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so here are all three done. These two are still a little warm, so we're going to work with this one. And we're going to start cutting it into pieces. I'm just going to keep that there so I know where it came from. And now don't make these pieces even. You want different shapes and legs for each. Okay, there we go. Now you've got those into pieces. I'm just going to try and piece that back together, make sure that I have it all in one lot. There we go. Now I'm just going to go find a piece of string for that. Okay, and what I'll do while I'm busy with the other ones is I like to just string it onto a piece of elastic, just to keep the beads in the order that they were cut. Like so. So this is not a permanent thing. It's just a way to keep them or store them until I want to make a bracelet, but in this case it's just until I've cut the others. And I'm going to repeat and do the same with the other two. from there, and then I'll do the others. Okay, so here is the bracelet, and I've also got these nice little silver spacer beads and a nice piece of thick cord. So just take each piece, string it on, spacer, next one, string it on, spacer, and I'll just continue until I finish stringing the whole bracelet. Okay, then the next step is going to be let's see if this cord end is going to fit. So I just need to trim off the end here, like so, and yes, it will fit, excellent. And I will just crimp that. And I'm just going to give a tug every once in a while, make sure that it's stuck. If it moves, then it's not stuck in there. Okay, that's stuck. Then this will probably go right through, so now we need to pop on a jump ring. So let me grab that. A jump ring and our clasp. Close that up, like so. Okay, and it will probably slide over the cord end, like so. Now if you don't want it to do that, what you can do is you can put a spacer on that end. And so I probably want to end up doing that actually. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly unthread this, pop a spacer over here, and pop a spacer on this end. Okay, and then before we move on to the next step, just turn all of your bracelet pieces the right way around so that they're all curving in before you crimp the other side. Just going to press against that nice and hard. Move that cord. Thread that on. Okay. Squish. Make sure it's stuck on. And there we go. And that should keep the pieces somewhat in alignment so that they're not swiveling, because it hasn't, by doing that before we crimp it, it hasn't allowed the bracelet to have too much give. So it's movable, but it isn't so movable that these pieces will start moving around and twisting while you wear it, which is quite important. Then I will just apply the last piece. If I can find it in here. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to repeat this process with the other bracelets, and I'll show you how they look when they are done. Okay, so there we are. That's basically it. So I was going to go with a different effect, and I was going to try and mix them up by putting the red with the yellows and purples with the reds and so on and so forth. That was the initial idea, but I decided after I'd cut them up and mix them together to see how they looked, that it just looked a little bit too busy. So instead I decided to just keep the cut up pieces in the pattern that they were cut, so they all match up together really nicely. And then just put the silver spaces between them. So that's basically what I went with. So again, this technique's pretty versatile. You could make one tube that kind of graduates from this kind of purple to the French pony to the red, so that you get a kind of graduation throughout the bracelet. But I think this looks quite pretty as it is. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing to this channel, and also please let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer them as soon as I can. And keep in mind that the canes that I showed today are all tutorials, so I'll provide links to them in the description below. Some of them are available on Etsy, but most of them are available free on YouTube, so do consider checking that out. And also do keep in mind that you can use just about any canes for this technique, just match them up. Remember to include a lot of translucent canes because I find that looks really good when you include those. And just have fun, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.